Hi, welcome to Athbheochan. I'm Blue Niall, a musician, artist and designer from Dublin. In recent years, I've found myself increasingly drawn to exploring, through my work, Irishness and aspects of Irish identity. I started sampling traditional music, writing lyrics in Irish and linking with like-minded people through collaborations. I started to notice that I wasn't alone. In the cultural fields of Ireland, something very interesting is happening. Athbheochan, or Rebirth, is a radio show about a new Celtic revival, looking at the explosion of new Irish art forms, utilising Irish accents, Irish language, samples of Irish music and colloquialisms, along with the renewal of interest in Celtic and pre-Celtic cultures on the island, practices and aesthetics in Ireland and beyond. The show features music and conversation, and each episode will focus on a theme. I wanted to speak to a forward-thinking, young Irish generation that's fed up with certain aspects of the country and its culture, but immensely proud of other aspects. People who don't speak Irish but would like to learn, who are interested in Celtic mythology, and also love global music such as hip-hop and underground club music. SBTV are running a series of 6 episodes of Athbheochan to celebrate St. Patrick's Festival. This episode is called Knotwork. It features an interview with Gaeilge, illustrator who's adopted the Celtic knotwork style and mixed it with streetwear to create a completely new aesthetic. In creating this show, I worked with some of my favourite people, and we had lots of extra content. I decided to split the interview in this episode into 2 parts. The rest will be aired in my regular slot in Dublin Digital Radio and through my Instagram. If you like what you hear, please follow me at blue_Niall_ on Instagram, or drop me an email at bluenileblue@gmail.com and subscribe to the mailing list via the link below. You can also keep in touch with my guests. I've dropped all their social profiles below and would highly recommend following these interesting and creative people who I believe are going to shape the future of the country. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy. Gurmila Mahagat. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm really excited about this one, and it is great to have you.
No bother, now I'm delighted.
As soon as I had this concept, I knew exactly who the first visual artist, Knotwork Celtic mythologist I had to go to was, and that was yourself. So I'm absolutely delighted. For people who don't have the pleasure of knowing you and your artwork already, please could you just introduce yourself and your art practice and the type? Just explain a little bit about the type of work that you do.
Yeah. So yeah, I studied photography, but I just completely went down the path of digital drawing. And that's kind of what I'm sticking with now. But it's all kind of, I suppose, like ancient Irish meets kind of fashion, but like modern day fashion. Like, I suppose streetwear would be like better to put it, because it's not like, avant-garde fashion or whatever. It's kind of like tracksuits and stuff, but meets kind of the Irish History Museum. So if you just went in and raided there and decked yourself out in a full tracksuit and a heap of jewelry, like that's what my art would be.
I feel like people who aren't familiar with your art are frantically Googling it now to see what that looks like. And I think that's the absolute right thing to do, because it's very special. It's something really different. And anyone I know who knows it is a massive fan. Like it's just such an original style. One thing I'd like to just start with is, how do you feel about Ireland and Ireland today? Like, I get the feeling from your art that, like me and like many of us, there's mixed feelings there. You're very passionate about it. It obviously takes a center stage, but it's not always a blanket, maybe positive commentary on where we're at right now. So I'd love to just hear a bit from you on how you feel about that.
Yeah, I love Ireland, and our culture. I think it's more the fact that kind of this, how would you say, like dying of the culture, but like it's kind of half and half. You see that like it's getting built up. There's a new wave of the culture coming, but then another half, other people are still kind of like, oh Jesus, get rid of that. We don't want that coming back. Nearly cringing at. So that's why I kind of want to do my own style to be like, this is actually class, like. Because like when I was younger, I would have been like, oh Jesus, so embarrassed by it and just hated that kind of stuff. But then the older I get, I'm like, why kind of shy away from your own culture when there's so much on such a small island? Like, so now I just kind of like delve right into it, trying to find out as much as I can.
That's so interesting, and that's very familiar. Like we've talked before as well about, that kind of post-colonial self-hatred almost that people have when,
Yeah,
it's like, oh, that's too Irish, the Irish stuff is cringe, or, and we've probably grown up in an era that where we were idolizing America, or, what I mean, these other kind of
yeah,
global empires that people want to dress like that, talk like that, and do you know what I mean? Things that are Irish can be seen as backwards, or just as not taken seriously. How
yeah.
did you find, like, but now, you've dived right into this kind of grabbing our past, grabbing our mythology, and basing your whole work around that. Like, talk to me about that journey. Where did you start, and how did you kind of find that? Did it come bit by bit? Was it a big epiphany? Like, how did you get there?
Yeah, like it all are like happened in college, but like I feel when I was younger, I always loved, fantasy stuff like Lord of the Rings and like reading like fairy tales and stuff like that. All that stuff is like, completely out of the real world. I was like, oh, I love this. Like, it's so obviously, it's just so interesting. Like, and
Mm.
obviously, I liked Irish stuff as well, but I don't know. I feel like it was nearly like primary school. It was kind of where you learned the Irish stories and stuff. And you're in primary school, you're like, oh, Jesus, I want to be doing everything bar school kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know, you know. And then, yeah, the older I got, then I was just like, we have so much of our own folklore here. And it's so interesting. Like, it's like, it nearly beats Norse mythology and Roman mythology. Well, not beats, but like it's on a level of that. And it's kind of like, Jesus, like it's so overlooked. Like, and even for like small little villages, like my auntie gave me a book there recently for, like, was a priest in our locality wrote a book on kind of our area in Laois. And just mad shit. And like that St. Patrick was meant to have came up the mountain kind of be near enough my granny's house, and he broke the wheels on his carriage coming up it, and it's just gas stuff. It's kind of like even this small little what's it called area of Laois has all this folklore as well. Like,
Yeah, that's so interesting, and I think one thing I've noticed from watching you and your work for a while now is you really do your research. Like you get in deep, and you're a researcher almost as much as an artist in that sense. Like, what are some of the interesting things that you've found doing all that research, and what's that process been like?
yeah, no, that's funny because that can be so like hit or miss because you'd get so carried away, like you'd be gone down a hole of Wikipedia stuff, and then you're like, half just could be absolute bullshit, like, but it's still so interesting, like. But yeah, one of my favorite, because like I was only thinking about this recently. There's a grave. I'm gonna look at it on my phone, but a grave of an Egyptian princess in Ireland,
Wow.
and like that's mad, like, and it's marked out on a map. I see now where I can find it. She was meant to be exiled from Egypt and sent over to Ireland, and
Where
there's
is
stuff
it?
like that. It's just like, where the fuck did that come from? Like,
What
sorry now.
county is it in?
So Glen of Scotia, yeah, south of Tralee in Kerry.
Of course, it's
Then it was
Kerry.
like, that's it, like. And then there's some sort of link then as well to her being the name for Scotland and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
like part of the Scots. But mad, like, that's just very random one that always sticks out to me. That I'm just like, where the fuck did that come from? Like,
I think we're both big fans of the Lara Goala, and I think there's a reference to that in there, right? Like that she came over from Egypt, and
yeah,
that's one of our ancestors. Like there's just incredible stories, and it's funny what you're saying about Wikipedia, because you're like, you don't know if it's bullshit. Like, we don't really know about, because the history's been told and retold and written down by
yeah.
monks and who were changing everything, and we don't know what they changed, what they didn't change.
Like, it's, yeah, the monks wrote centuries after because like our pagan past or whatever was never writ. So you're kind of like, geez, you could nearly write it yourself sometimes, take what you want from it, like. So like if I got any little inkling of anything, like that princess, there was fuck all wrote about her, but it's still like there's something there that like somebody wrote a long time ago, and it's just like, where where does this idea came from?
Yeah, but I mean, I think you are writing it yourself. Do you know what I mean? And I think, like, to some extent, and I think that's something that's exciting. It's a living history. Like, you're not just doing illustrations of things that happen, but you're actually then putting your own spin into it and kind of creating new history for the country as well.
Yeah, but that's it. You just like, you know, you'll read something like that, or like, I'm trying to think now other ideas. Even, yeah, I've done a piece now that was displayed in Limerick in the city on the electricity box for Draw Out Limerick, and that was so fun. But like, that was just literally the story of the River Shannon, and then I got to kind of combine two different stories of the monster from the River Shannon and then the goddess of the River Shannon. And just like, the more you delve into it, even like, there's other rivers that have sort of similar stories. The Salmon of Knowledge appears in the stories as well. And it's kind of like everything intertwines as if it was like, you know, this ancient community of gods that they all kind of like, I don't even know how fast could they have moved from county to county, but they're mentioned in all different places. It's cool. Like, just, yeah, our ancestors being absolute storytellers that pass these on throughout Ireland. Like,
I love that. I love that you use the word intertwined. I was thinking, so this, you know, it's obviously part of a series, and for anyone who's just tuned in, you know, it's Athbheochan. We're live all week on the St. Patrick's Festival, and we're going to go beyond that too. But this episode, I actually called it Knotwork, because I thought that what you do, obviously you use the Celtic knotwork, but actually in a metaphorical sense, you're tying it back, you're leaning into these interconnections, and you're uncovering these interconnections that are there as well in the history and the culture.
And I suppose that, yeah, it has no start and it has no end either. Like, it's a continuous knotwork loop.
That's so interesting. And that reminds me visually, I'm thinking of, well, obviously I'm thinking of all the knotwork, but I'm thinking of the Bridget's Cross, which is a massive symbol in your work, right? And three symbols in your work that I wanted to explore. One was the Bridget's Cross, crops up a lot. Another one's the balaclava. Another one is gold jewelry, and sometimes you combine those to have a gold jewelry of the Bridget's Cross. So just tell me what each of those things means, why they crop up in your work, and what you think of when you see those symbols.
Yeah, with the Bridget's Cross, I think it's such a distinct thing of Irish history. Like, you know, it has a pagan background, but it also has a Catholic background, but it's distinctly Irish, and I really like that. Like, and with St. Bridget, she's strangely became one of my favorite characters of folklore, with that thing that she's so prevalent that she continued from the pagan past onto the Catholic. Like, I know they are appearing as two different entities or whatever, but they're still holding the same beliefs and stuff. And another thing, is with it, like, you know, with St. Patrick, how I see it is like, there's only this random now, or like fact that I suppose I found, but Croagh Patrick is meant, now I don't know how true this is, so don't quote me on this, but like Croagh Patrick is meant to be full of gold inside it, and no one can dig it up or whatever. But then St. Bridget's was full of some other material, could have been iron, I'm not sure, but like they dug it up. And even with that, I'm just like, it's nearly like, okay, fuck St. Bridget, like, you know, we can do whatever to that, but Jesus, St. Patrick, he's our patron saint, we can't go near that. But I'm like, is it nearly a sexist thing at the same time? Do you know? And I love the fact that St. Bridget's Day is going to be turned into a bank holiday now next year. It's kind of like, even with this revival, and like, do you know, like, you wouldn't have thought that something like that could change, like, for how many years, that they're actually going to make St. Bridget's Day, you know, a bank holiday. It's just good to see. But I feel like there's something about St. Bridget that I just found really interesting. And yeah.
And I mean, I totally agree. And I think stuff like what you're doing is actually a part of that, right? The reclaiming of different you know, heroes, symbols. What do we, you know, these are the things that make up a culture. And I think that I think St. Bridget is, you know, and so, I mean, Bridget, I mean, I feel like she was kind of co-opted, but like, she is rightfully maybe getting taken seriously, and, you know, maybe someday we'll re-examine Patrick as well. We won't tear him down while we're on the St. Patrick's Festival. But no, I mean, I think it's, you know, it's taken, I might have to cut that out. It's taken It's yeah, no, we
I
love
could have went with a bad.
Patrick. um, sorry. So yeah, no, it's interesting because obviously we're here, celebrating St. Patrick. Maybe next year, who knows? Who knows what festivals we'll see? And that's the exciting thing is things that feel immovable actually do shift. And one of those symbols that's shifted, and we've played with this symbol as well in stuff that we've done together, the balaclava, like what does that signify to you? You're a very prolific user of the balaclava. To me, when I look at your older stuff, it was there right from kind of the get-go as a window into this new Irish style. Like what does it mean?
Like, I suppose it is this whole thing, like obviously the IRA and like, that use of like, oh, this is class, like let's spray paint this somewhere, and then mixing that with like modern day hip hop culture and like street fashion and stuff. People use balaclavas as if like, it's not even that kind of thing. And like, oh, I'm actually going to go rob this bank. It's like, oh, look at this. This is class. Like, I'm going to deck some chains around it and stuff. And like, to be fair now, I just eat that up. I'm like, that is unreal. Like, and then just try and combine that in, it's nearly gone now from the whole fact of like, obviously it is a statement for like the IRA and obviously it's definitely about that in my work, but completely a fashion statement as well.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like, and of course, yeah, those two things coming together kind of coincidentally, like the rise of balaclavas is obviously drill music is big. I think Kanye West has used a ton of balaclavas across and that type of mask across different things. Like, but then you've also got at the same time it's been culturally reclaimed, like say like Blind Boy Boat Club and the Rubber Bandits being a good earlier example. Obviously it's it's made from a plastic bag, but like that was the symbol that they had brought in and they kind of had taken this kind of latent republicanism, but then channeling that through a different filter. And obviously you've done work with Kneecap as well.
Both Blind Boy and Kneecap would be a big inspiration. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I mean, I find it interesting. I found myself putting it in things I was doing, and I had to really think about it. And I was thinking about, well, there's this idea of the mask, right? And like hidden things in society. Yeah, and like someone like Blind Boy Boat Club, to me, because of the anonymity, and Ireland's a place where people can feel watched, and obviously we have a history of being suppressed and kind of literally watched by the parish priest going door to door, or whoever, reporting someone and then being disappeared to the Magdalen laundries. And it's like there was a sense of being watched and then being almost hidden and taken away from society. And I think that I wonder if the new part of the power of the new symbol of the balaclava, aside from the fact that, look, it's been in our culture, it speaks to a level of authenticity, I guess, in as far as, people in the early days of Irish hip hop might have said, we can't do hip hop because we don't, go around carrying guns or whatever. And obviously that's not the case, but it's like, yeah, but look, do you know what I mean? We look at what has happened in our country. There's things to talk about, you know what I mean? But I wonder if it's something about the mask, like the masked violence, the kind of even seeing people in balaclavas these days, kicking people out of houses, reinforcing, as a private security, the kind of landlord's rights, like a lot was made of that. And it's kind of, to me, every time I see the balaclava, it poses the question to me of where is the violence? Who's wearing the mask? What's behind the mask? And what are these things that aren't out in the open, and why aren't they in the open? Do you know that way?
Yeah. So. No, that's it. Like it is completely masking things. Like, and for like, suppose a lot of different reasons in my art, it would be doing that from like.
Well, sometimes in your work, I see the balaclava I see the balaclavad men not as threatening, but as heroes, because it's almost like you don't know who we are, but we're standing for these values, if you get me. And obviously that was, true of the IRA at a time. And yeah, I mean, just very interesting how that symbol's been kind of reappropriated. And so much in hip hop culture has been reappropriated, right, from the experience of African Americans through, the horrific experiences, but then to take words like whatever, the N word, and reclaim that and kind of make that a symbol of positivity. It is interesting to take those symbols of, I guess, struggle, and that had one meaning when we were in one situation, like, not to get too into the politics as to where we are now and if we're really free, or the 6 counties and everything like that, but yeah, well, it's interesting though, isn't it? I mean, the Rubber Bandits, just to have a final thing on it, I like what they say. They have a real thing about armchair republicanism, right? And it's like, everyone should be patriotic, but there is a brand of patriotism that actually is like, just like, yeah, it's like scrawling IRA on the wall of your school or something without really thinking about what do we actually need to uplift us as a community, as a country. Like, colonialism is real. Like, the forces of power that inflicted harm in this country are very real. But like, let's actually look at the implications of that, and let's look at where we are now propagating the same inequality and unfairness that's happening, and looking under the surface, I think. And maybe the balaclava is an invitation to look under the surface of something as well, in some sense.
Completely right, like what you said, because I'd be taking it more from the fact, and when I'm younger, you'd be like, oh yeah, class, and you did not, like, you lived through it, but you weren't in the middle of that situation. You're like kind of an outsider watching in, and kind of using this as nearly like, oh, this is class, like, and it's like, no, this is like a serious situation. But yeah, you're looking in through a window basically at this, and then using it as kind of like a trend, and that's what I am doing, like, but kind of in a satire kind of way,
Yeah, that's interesting. I love what you said. I love that you mentioned satire. And one thing I really want to talk to you about is, well, probably a cluster of things. So you've talked about hyper masculinity in other interviews. You've talked about your own sexuality, growing up in rural Ireland, the effects of that, and how you're trying to take a new lens, you create your own world, your own structures of meaning.
Yeah.
To explore that. And I think that's really interesting, because I think sometimes on the surface, people might not even fully pick that up, and someone could see your work and go, cool, balaclava guy with a big machine gun, or whatever it is, do you know what I mean? But then actually partly what you're doing there is you're deconstructing these images that are this hyper masculine thing, and likewise to it, how certain enlightened rappers are approaching hip hop and as an undermining of the hyper masculinity. Like, talk to me about that. I mean, firstly, what was it like growing up, and then how have you tried to bring that into your work now later on?
I suppose, like, growing up, like, was grand. Jesus, like, can't complain about anyway when I was growing up. But obviously, nearly kind of for so long being in denial, you're masking that, which nearly suppose the balaclava works in that way as well. You're masking that, and trying to nearly overdo the whole, like, oh Jesus, I'm the best lad, like, and like nearly embarrassed at any kind of maybe feminine trait you'd have and stuff like that you mask it for so long and just kind of avoid that. Then obviously the older I got, but this is like, yeah, I'm growing up in the middle of the countryside with fuck all, I don't know, you're not taught about being gay. I had to teach myself all of this. I had to kind of realize this myself. And then, like, the older you get, obviously the more, like, you can go on the internet, you can watch shows on television that are investigating this kind of stuff. Like, this kind of stuff, being gay, like, but but like but like, yeah, the more you look into it, then you kind of actually just see who you are. And then coming down to live in Limerick in the city, completely just got comfortable with myself, and you're just actually able to just go out in the world and be like, grand, like, this isn't an issue anymore. But in this kind of like rural area, that when you're so kind of like, this is all like a foreign concept to you, that you're like, oh my god, this is the worst thing ever. But Ireland, I feel, has went from 0 to 100, so fast, which is very good. But it just seemed to have, like, one day everything clicked and we came into the future,
Yeah, and that's something I am curious about, because I felt that way. I mean, I emigrated and came back. I came back to vote in the marriage referendum. But it seemed like because I wasn't here for the build-up of it, and I kind of left one country, came back to vote. Obviously, I'd been back in the meantime, but it felt I didn't know that it would pass. I remember people were taking photos on the ferry. It was a big photo op of people coming home from London, and I wouldn't be in the photo because I felt like people were celebrating prematurely. Now, I think that that's like, in retrospect, a bit stupid. I probably could have been in the history books or something. But like, I really wasn't sure. And that shows you how now the Ireland that's come out after that, interesting choice of words, but that's Ireland has come out maybe in a sense, but like I feel much more visibility for queerness and queer spaces and practices, like, and I wonder, like, definitely when I think about this concept of a renaissance of an Athbheochan, and like, I mean, I always see ancient Ireland and mythological Ireland as a queer space, in the sense that, you had Cuchulainn and Ferdia that were likely lovers. Like, you've got, like, you referenced somewhere else, the Greeks would say, that the Celts would take male lovers that could be two warriors. Like, whereas even in Rome, where I think there was relationships between men, were more like you were teaching a younger man kind of the ways of the world or something, whereas the Celtic sense was more subversive because it was equals and two powerful warriors in their own right, potentially. And then you've got things like Queen Maeve, or, these powerful female figures that were not questioned. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh no, but Queen Maeve isn't quite something. Like, she's very much an extremely powerful leader, and the gender thing didn't really come into it. So yeah, I mean,
like, you have to kind of diagnose mythology and stuff to be kind of like, oh, maybe this meant this, or maybe it meant this, because it's not actually wrote. But then if you look at other cultures, like, say, like Native Americans, they had the third gender. And these things did exist in pre-Christian, no, not even pre-Christian, like pagan times in the world, like prehistory. And like, it wouldn't be so outlandish if it happened in Ireland either. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that being homosexual or whatever was something looked down on these times. I think it was kind of just like, grand, yeah, sure, like, what's the problem? You're going to do what you want to do, until this kind of moral sins shit came in with the Christian church and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I wonder, can we get back there? I definitely feel like some things have opened up. Like, obviously, the referendum is a great moment to kind of put that stake in the ground. Obviously, there's still a lot more work to do. But I wonder if there are, moving into the new era, if we're just going to have more representation, almost like on a cultural level, not just, okay, give people the rights and then shut them up and kind of move on with business as usual, but actually, how can our discourse change as a society? Can we ask more questions? Can we look at things differently? Can we kind of break down some of that rigid thinking that ended up forcing out a lot of forms of difference and things over the years?
Like, in an ideal world, you would love to be able to just like, oh, that's normal, but there still is a kind of sense of like, people are like nearly purposely being like, oh Jesus, I love it, I've no problem with it at all. And like that, like things like that, like, obviously some people like that, but I find that painful, because I'm just like, oh God, I don't want to be like, I'd be, a quite enough person. I like my own privacy, whatever. I don't like being that kind of center of attention thing, like, oh Jesus, isn't it great now you're able to do that? It's just like, fuck off, like,
Hopefully there will be generations down the line where it's normalized, and like, I guess, obviously it's not fair that history chooses you in that way, but like, I think you're living at a time where actually it's still in the process of getting there, and so you're going to take all of the. But it's probably better to be around now than to be around 50 or 60 years ago. And
years ago, married now with some farm, like married in some farm in Laois with some farmer's wife, and that'd be my horrible fate.
Oh man, I heard a podcast the other day of someone eating the diet of a medieval like Irish country farmer. Just with like a small farm, not a rich farmer or anything. And it was literally 40 potatoes. It was 40 potatoes. And he just ate them. And he was doing this podcast of like, right, I've had my breakfast, 4 potatoes. Yeah, it was pretty bland. On to the next one, like, right, 8 potatoes for my 11s. And like, they were just had them. There was buttermilk, there was butter, there was a bit of seaweed, there was black pepper and water. And he was allowed to dip them in this. There was herrings, tinned herrings, but like that was all. And it was like, just sounded so grim. Like, and then, recently I saw that, wasn't there a painting? I could be totally bullshitting here, but I think there was a painting of a potato that recently sold for a lot of money by...
I feel that I reckon that.
Yeah, and it's like maybe the reclaiming of this symbol. I didn't know this was going to come up, or I would have looked up the name of this artist, but I'll pop it back in. But yeah, so it's interesting. Those things are being reclaimed, but like then at the same time, it's like you can't really step over that history of like, no, there was a lot of long years of whatever bland food and cultural repression that people went through. In terms of other artists, I'm Blue Niall, and this is Athbheochan. Trying to find their own creating
style,
this show, I worked with some of my favorite
maybe
people,
had a style
and
and
they're kind of feeling differently about Ireland, and they want to interview in this episode into 2 parts. The rest will be aired in my regular slot in Dublin Digital Radio and through my
drawn
Instagram.
in their copybook in the back.
If you want to keep in touch, drop your email on the link below this video.
Or whatever. Like, what advice would you
so
give
much for
to these
listening.
people? I don't know. Like, I suppose, Joe, I've been drawing since I was so young, like, since I can remember, and I feel like my sketches, though, outside of digital sketches, so if I'm to do it, say, like on a piece of paper, it's completely different than my digital ones. Like, I'm just drawing like I don't know, more faces and stuff like that. I wouldn't go into full bodies. It's really quick. Like, it's just kind of, what would you even say? Like, you just go into like flow and into the zone. You're just kind of like, oh, this class, I'm just drawn for the crack. Like, but with the digital ones, that was just kind of more of a trial and error. I was just kind of like trying to think of stuff for my degree show. I was like, what? And then like finally I was just like, this is it. Like, because I was doing so much work with the devil and like with satanic stuff, and I kind of delved more into that. I did my thesis on the devil in artwork and like ancient sculptures and stuff, and I kept kind of saying how you'd have a lot of pagan religions, and a lot of different religions would be all seen as like, okay, let's use bits of these for the devil, so that people be like, look down on, say, like Judaism, like Christians now would look down on that, or look down on, like, when you'd have, what was that? I'll be very bad now with Bible stories, but it was like was it a gold bull or something that was worshipped in one Bible stories and stuff like that. It's all that kind of like horned beast and stuff. But then when you're kind of just like, why the fuck did they make it like a goat is the thing of sin? Like, a goat would have like fed families, like, do you know what I mean? Like, years ago, that I feel like would have been like. So the more I looked into that, I was just like, oh, this pagan idea is class. Like, and then I just completely delved into this world of ancient Ireland and ancient Gaelic culture, Celtic culture, and here I am now, like, still doing it. It's still never ending. You will never end. Like, there's just, you can keep going with different stories and find out something new every day. Like,
it is great, yeah, because I mean, a lot of people would have, creative block or whatever, whereas when you have that kind of source of inspiration there, and it hasn't been explored, like, I feel like there's so much richness and you just don't hear about it, like, because that's the value of being overlooked, maybe, or having a slightly weird cultural attitude towards ourselves, is that there's actually a lot sitting there for those who want to find it and go and look for it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you are embarking on a slightly different creative pursuit, which is hairstyles. Now, I wanted to talk to you about this, and as soon as I heard that you were doing this, I was excited because I'm really interested in the kind of Celtic hairstyles. Like, I mean, I'm interested in Celtic aesthetics across every media. Like, I think, do you know what I mean? So much has been kind of imperially put on us and forced on us about how we should, what language we should speak, what clothes we should wear, and everything else like that, how we should look. We had a lot of our culture conditioned out of us, and I'm interested in bringing it back, or if we can't do that, then reimagining it and finding out. And like, we have interesting precedents, like the bog bodies that are however many thousands of years old, where they had tree resin used as gel in their hair, and they had these cool kind of crazy mullet hairstyles. And then like, we've got all kinds of scope. I've seen on your Instagram that you had experimented with shaving even some of the patterns into the side of your hair. I'm not sure if it was you or someone else. And then obviously there's everything with braids and knotwork, and like, I'm curious to, we were talking earlier about that kind of classic Dublin lad hairstyle. Well, I see it as Dublin lad. It could be Irish lad, but the short back and side, kind of a fringe. It's like, maybe there's other places that we could go. Like, so are you actively bringing any of that in? I know you're kind of in a position where you're trying to learn from the masters at the moment. So maybe, are you waiting in the wings? Like, what do you think about the Celtic hairstyle revival?
So yeah, like, I'm beginning now. So I'm working in a place called Odd in Limerick, and it is just the best space ever. Like, even beyond hairdressing and barbering, it has beauticians as well. And there's just so much coming out of it. It's like a creative, safe space. And it's just like, I'm so lucky to be in this place, like, and I'm getting that creativity 24/7. But yeah, so far I'm working with blow dries. So I'm kind of like at my beginning now and working my way up into kind of like, see where it'll take me with, like, I'll be doing styling and coloring. But yeah, I always kind of had an interest, but then I went to art college and did photography and kind of just didn't think about it for a while. And then after, I was like, oh, I knew I wanted this creativity on the regular, like every day, be able to get this creative fix. And now I'm in there, and Jesus, I'm just so happy. Like, but definitely, because my, manager now, Emma, she is so about getting your inspirations out there. And she always just like, oh, you need to bring your work into, like, your artwork into this space and into like your hairstyles and stuff. So definitely in the future, I will be trying to get stuff out, and like looking back in history and stuff, and like maybe traditional hairstyles. Like, there is stuff written, I've seen bits and pieces, but it would be class to get it in there. See who's willing to let me shave shit into their hair, like.
Well, you've got one customer here for sure. I actually had I actually had a spiral shaved into it there for one of the videos recently, but then it only lasted a week, so I was like, fuck, I'm gonna need to get real high maintenance like hair now if I want to get it going. But no, I'm here. I'm a guinea pig for anything. I saw you designed a tattoo as well recently, which was unbelievable. I think were you even saying, did I see you say on Instagram, you're like, no, I actually want that like, it had been a commission, but you're like, I actually want that myself.
Oh, stop. Like, if I had all this money, like, I would be destroyed in tattoos. Like, I know I would be. But oh, and then every tattoo I do for people, I'm like, oh, class. Like, I'd love that as well. Oh, it's so funny, like. But that was a random one, like, because people just obviously see my work and they were just like, oh, I'd love that as a tattoo. Then people start asking me, and it's so fun, like, and actually seeing people when they get them done is unbelievable, like, that like my work is on people's bodies. It's mad, like.
You're making me think seriously that I actually do need to get one. I have a tattoo myself, but I wanted a Celtic one, but I didn't know who to go to, and I went to a really good tattoo artist. Actually, he's called Tuka Voodoo, that was working in London at the time, and now is over in Sweden, and I think his heritage is Iranian and Swedish. I'm not really sure, but like just a really good hand drawn tattoo artist that kind of took some of the inspirations and did like some kind of spiral work that's similar to Newgrange. But like I would love to get some of the more like that kind of more knotworky elements, and like even taken in a different era. I always thought I might get a lion or something from the Book of Kells, but like wrapped around the side of my body there, like one of the big like crazy ones with big spiral tongues and everything. So, but yeah, so anyway, people send Jill the money. We need to get him covered in tattoos. If you like this, then I think you've shut down your Patreon, but get him the money somehow, because the people need yeah. And
Ryan getting tattooed.
The final question then I want to ask you, which I ask all of the guests on the show, Athbheochan, is about the future. So we've actually collaborated a bit on this and thinking about like what would Ireland be like in kind of 500 years, 1,000 years time. And you had said that like if it's a utopia and things go well, you'd see like a kind of an eco paradise. So I'd love you to just describe that eco paradise to the listeners. What would it be like, and do you think we'll get there?
Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like with me now, it'd be pure like, like fantasy, looking at it like folklore. But yeah, it'd be unreal to see. Do you know? Obviously, if we're just kind of like going to cop onto ourselves and not let global warming happen, and just let nature reclaim a bit back. Because you know when you seen in the first lockdown and stuff, like we seen like otters swimming up our river, and then there was like herons in the river, and this is in the middle of Limerick City, like watching out to Shannon, and like that was class because it's like never seen that before.
Yeah,
you know. And yeah, if you could just maybe we could ease off in a bit, and that's another thing. Yeah, with the space I'm in now, odd, everything is eco-friendly. Like the hair is all swept up to be or sent off for oil spills, and then all of our like tin foil is recycled. The plastic bottles, we're actually giving it to a guy now. He is doing a boat run, so he's trying to make a big massive boat out of all plastic bottles and cans.
Wow.
Like it's really conscious with that, and same with like all the products and stuff are like, you know, eco-friendly and stuff. But yeah, it'd be good to just to see that bit of a difference for such a small country. I feel like it's a big possibility. Like,
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And that's reminded me, I actually saw otters as well in the canal in Dublin, like which I hadn't seen. So like it's definitely there. Yeah, it's definitely waiting in the wings to yeah, it was actually gas. There was a load of kids then that were, the otter was there swimming by, and the kids were like, couldn't believe it. Like they were all just standing around. They were like, what the fuck? Like this otter, like, but yeah, I mean, that's the good thing about nature. I mean, provided we don't push it to the absolute breaking point, which, you know, it looks like that is potentially on the cards, but like if we can ease off it and give it that space, like it will really come back. And like I think just having that respect for the land and for the culture, which I think, you know, you definitely have, like bringing back those ways of thinking, the deeper thing to the whole paganism, you know, beyond just taking the influence in an art sense, like there's a lot of values in there around nature, and I think a lot that we can learn from,
like, you know, and like, Jesus, we wouldn't live like without it. I don't know, keeping our heritage as well, like even with Eddie Lenihan now, if people don't know who he is, like he's a famous Irish storyteller from Clare, but like he does a lot of work with keeping sites, you know, from being or from not being destructed and taken away. And even that kind of stuff, like if we could, like there's like even up the top of my road at home there's a fairy fort, and it's gas, like, because it's like I sure didn't know that was there at all, like all through my time until now. And like if more of those sites could be like looked after and not just like out the back of someone's house, like, do you know obviously you can't move them either, but like, yeah, just kind of more focused on and just our own heritage. Like I feel like obviously for tons of years it was kind of like money over, you know, history, money over whatever. It's kind of like, fuck that, get rid of it, you know.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting. And I think I saw a really interesting project recently, which I'll link if I can find it, which is finding all those fairy forts and just trying to even
they have that monument viewer is what I've been doing. It's like literally just monument viewing. You can layer old maps over the modern maps, and it gives like red dots of certain places, and like
nice.
Jesus is so much. Like if you go on like wherever you are, like the city now isn't, I don't find it, other people will find it interesting, but I wouldn't find it as interesting because once you're in the countryside, then you find a ring fort, you could go on a walk and find something mad, like, you know. In the city it's so built up from Jesus, like Viking times and stuff, that all of that stuff is completely wiped out.
You
know?
No, it's fascinating. Like, and there really is like, it's stuff everywhere. It reminds me like the way that we talk about the good people in the way they're spoken about in mythology and stuff. Like it actually, funnily enough, reminds me a little bit of your balaclava men. Like the way that I feel about them sometimes is like they're just there, you know, they're not completely straightforward in what they're doing, but they're kind of mostly benign and like, you know, but there's stuff going on and we don't fully understand it. But it is interesting. Like, I mean, not to get too far into religion or whatever, but like I wouldn't say I'm an atheist or a theist, like, or a pagan or anything else really, but like I really like the ideas that these things point to, you know, and like maybe we need a little bit more of that sense of what does a decentralized spiritual presence kind of mean for us, and like does that create a different relationship with our environment? Does that create a different, you know, even if you think of the one God, having one God gives you one truth and one kind of set of values that you're following, and that idea that you're talking about of money over everything, it's like, you know, the idea of a one God is a something over everything type idea. So once you have something over everything, then, you know, it's immediately, oh, this is the thing, that's not the thing. Whereas something like these fairies running around and there being loads of them and they're all having a general, it kind of changes it.
But that's it, because it's like, I suppose you have gods of specific places, and that's like cool, like, you know, like say you go, I don't even know now. Oh, I'm just trying to think of somewhere that you go, like, but you know, like certain folklore, like if you were like a mountain somewhere in Ireland, could be like God Don. Like there's a mountain in Limerick that the God Don. I'm very bad now at pronouncing things. I could like Irish names and all that. Like I'd be very bad. That's why it's good I'm on Instagram and all I have to do is write it, because if I have to pronounce it, I'd be shocking. But like there's a mountain. It's meant to be like kind of his underworld. Like he's God of the dead.
Yeah,
like
another one.
Mountain. But that's class. But it's like exactly what you said. One God. It's kind of like, oh, if ye all be really good now and don't do anything sinful, you'll go to heaven, you know, and you'll go to hell if you're bad. But with Irish mythology, I feel like people are neither good nor bad, which humans are neither good nor bad. None of us, like Jesus Christ, like none of us out there at all are good 24/7. And like, it's probably gonna, like, you know, whatever, like, but the Catholic Church is, I see it as a true evil. I'm just like, you know, obviously people like Catholic Church. And okay, I would never be disrespectful to the point, like, I go to church now at Christmas and stuff still, and I know certain things, but like, I like the idea of you're able to pray and you're able to practice your spirituality. I have no problem with that. I like that element of it. I wouldn't do it myself, but I like the element of that. But it's the whole money side of it and the whole kind of like corrupt side of it that kind of just completely ruined it. And like, you know, ancient Ireland with the monks and stuff, I don't think it was actually that bad. Like, I know it was probably forceful and forced the Irish, like probably a lot of people did get forced into this religion brutally and innocently. Obviously it's wrote as if it was very innocent, but yeah, I just feel like it's coming to a good time now that people are making proper reviews. They're not kind of forced into being like, oh yeah, you have to do this, which is better, you know, and it gives more room for this kind of like, as we were saying, this new Ireland, like this new world, I suppose, like.
Yeah, well, now we need to find our own, you know, way, which is the really interesting bit, right? It's like once you've left behind these structures of control, we have to find our own path beyond those structures, and I think that's something that's very interesting, and that's been, you know, gifted to us for better and for worse in this moment and the next few moments of history. But I'm delighted that you're here in this time and place to kind of give us guidance and provocation and different things through your artwork. And I'm delighted that you've been able to join us on Athbheochan for this interview. Where can people follow you at, or keep in touch, find your artworks, and send you money for tattoos should they so choose?
Well, it's all over on Instagram. So like that's where I mainly work off Instagram. And yeah, I'm just happy out with it. So the name is _DIABHAL 666 _. And then I have my hair account is linked on that, and my personal account is linked on that. But yeah, that's where I just work mainly for. I just find Instagram good. It's handy. It gets people out there, and there's so much other good artists on it as well. And it's just an interesting place. Like,
anyone else that people should check out? I know you have a few interesting kind of collaborators.
Now edit this out because I wanted just to be able to get it up and be able to see.
Yeah, we're great.
Like, you know, but yeah, definitely check out Odd, where I'm working now, Odd Limerick, and such a great space. And the girls in it. So we have Marie, Emma, Kira, and Claudia. And hopefully more people now in the future. But check them all out. And then other people, I'm trying to think, Spice Bag. He's very good. We're very close friends now, and he's just good artist. Like, then we have Execute Exist. I'm doing collaborations with him now, and good stuff. And oh geez, I'm very bad now.
Who was doing, there was someone you were working with that was doing the Celtic Bimbo manifesto?
Oh, no, so that wasn't with me, but that's Aoife Cawley, yeah. She is class. So she's in Limerick as well. She comes in actually and be my blow dry model now.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, but her work is fucking class. People should definitely check out that.
Nice, yeah, and I definitely will try and maybe even get her on a future episode, because it's just very cool what she's doing. But cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. Best of luck with everything. And people go follow him. He's going interesting places. Definitely get in while you can. Get the t-shirts and the tattoos and anything else, but without overloading him, because we also need to protect his mental health space, and I definitely want him for some of my stuff. But thank you so much. Great to chat, and looking forward to what you come up with next.
Yeah, thanks so much now for having me on.
I just lay low, I can't lay back. All my anxious voices, it was way back. And I lost my youth, don't wanna way back. And the walls to be, I wanna break that. All the fakeness, I don't play that. Hate the ways that they chat, try to pull me on the same track. No way lad, le the Chalín, she a cathaf, nil sagum, fuin gadref, chame glita, ima chola, cúbla mila, solar stop me, na me quinta, agus tosa, lana dina, tashi lofa, be McDowsa, glocka shota, cúbla bangers, saxa puta, be McDowsa, egg and flat, Chrissy catches ter me shot, Aaron August ni Iran, she extana me ekbran, tashi tap, tashi shan, yo, vonig she come in a man, bring la dido, hame chan, she a geary.